Servers everywhere. After we had the bad boss, who reduced our college's IT team and budget to nothing, we had the good boss, who was great. He wanted to improve things, instead of just desperately duct taping them together. Very hands-on, he even went out in the field sometimes to see what we were doing. When he arrived, the greater university was just gearing up to transition from Windows XP to 7. The discussion over how to do this got a little delayed, so then it became XP to 10, much to our great relief. Our boss suggested we make an image for our college's computers following university standards to push out to all the machines. When we stopped laughing, we pointed out that this wasn't going to happen. Our college's computers weren't networked in any real sense of the word beyond most of them connect to the internet. Somehow, our servers certainly didn't talk to the university servers. Most of our servers didn't talk to our servers. The best we could possibly do was use this upgrade to bring everything into cohesion. Wait a minute, our new boss asked, cradling his head in his hands. Help me understand the scope of the problem. How many of our servers don't talk to our other servers? How many servers do we actually have? We all looked at each other. There were several servers in the room we were in. Those were easy enough. There was an email server, and a server for the printers on this floor. We also had. Wait, the print server is just for this floor. We have 10 buildings and probably 30 floors between them all. Oh no, we reassured him. Some of the buildings had just one print server, and some even shared them. But some had a different print server per lab, because the labs used to be owned by a different college and we inherited them. And in some cases a professor had gotten a grant and bought their own print server. What? Why? Shrug. Who are we to question the wisdom of the faculty? But back to the count. Everyone knew about the server next door, because it was part of an international grant and the US governor contacted us occasionally to ask why it was transmitting to Iran. Answer: Professor was in Iran, hopefully doing normal things. But no one knew what the server sitting on top of that one was for. Actually, as we took our impromptu meeting into that room to poke around, we found 4 more servers that were definitely running and doing something. So that was 7, and those were just the ones in the immediate proximity to us. Our network guy, aka the one tech who knew something about networks, said that he had about 36 of them that he monitored. He could tell from traffic that there were definitely more, but he didn't know where they were. Exactly. Were any of these servers backed up? Onto what? Exactly? More servers? Our new boss, looking older by the minute, gave us orders. Any time we weren't on a ticket, we were to go room by room in every building, looking for servers. It was the Easter egg hunt from hell. We found servers running under desks in storage closets, behind other servers, above ceiling tiles. One had been installed in a facilities closet against a hot water intake pipe and had partially melted. I remember that one in particular, because the tech who found it had to fill out an injury report after getting burned by the server/pipe hybrid. After that, Good Boss made sure we all learned what hot water pipes looked like, just in case. Good Boss also ventured out himself to help. One time he found 3 servers just stacked on the floor. While ranting to the tech with him about the ideal closet he would have installed them in if he had put them in the room, he opened the next door and found exactly the model of wiring closet he had just described, standing empty. He had to go have a lie down. Our end total? 168 servers. I never got into networking, so I'm uninformed in this area, but they assured me this was not the correct number of servers for a workforce of about 1. I don't know. Maybe it works better if everyone has their own print server. He opened the next door and found exactly the model of wiring closet he had just described, standing empty. He had to go have a lie down. I'm pretty sure he found somewhere empty and cried, possibly in that closet. I had never seen him so upset. He was usually a master of Zen while all of us techs shrieked about the terrible things we saw, but that really did him in. He knew at that point, he'd inherited the actually antithesis of a textbook working environment. This brought back a lot of memories of my own university tech support days. We also ended up supporting a bunch of random departments. My favorite was the department head who refused for the longest time to stop using his preferred email client. It was an old open source program from the early 90s. As I recall, the company didn't support it anymore. This was about 2009. No idea how many servers we hunted down and took offline. I do remember my boss literally spending 24 straight hours trying to recover research data off an ancient server from a department we had just inherited. No backups, of course. There are never any backups. It was so amazing once our boss got things running and introduced us to offsite storage and all of these other newfangled things. The one tech who had been there forever had tried his best, in that he took the old tape someone made once home. What professor is going to spend 2x the cost of the server per year backing it up? One that hasn't yet spent 4x the cost of the server recovering data that's been lost. Isn't it the other way around? They only start backing things up after losing data. I'm not sure how I would feel about this. On the one hand, Easter egg hunt from hell. On the other, opportunity to tear down and rebuild your networking infrastructure properly. And somehow, I find the prospect of scream testing a bunch of unknown servers somehow cathartic. Good Boss built the hell out of the new system. It had off-site redundancy, as good a cabling job as was possible in our somewhat baffling building architecture, and we could image machines like a dream. When users called and asked, "Can you recover this file for me?" the answer became usually yes. It was glorious. Shadow copies are a requirement for any functional business. My dad transitioned from mainframes to networking and used to set up networks with servers for businesses back during the telecommunications boom. I don't think he ever put more than 2 or 3 in even the largest companies that he contracted to. 168 servers for 1,000 people. Wow. What does this one do? I don't know. Before I wrote up this story, I decided to Google how many servers per person should your business have. Just in case I've been way off this whole time and 100 is completely normal. And the answer I saw was for most businesses, 1 to 3, so I decided this story was indeed safe to post. Virtualization is a truly magical thing. This reminds me somewhat of when I was contracting for the vendor on a desktop replacement job for a large regional hospital system who was trying to get everybody on the same image of XP. Our mandate was to find and replace every desktop we could. Until we ran out of money. Holy crap, do doctors like to hoard computers? Go into an office that officially had 12 working desktops, and we'd end up replacing typically 20 to 25. They didn't even really have desk space or even space on the switches for them, but they were just coming out of the woodwork like crazy. As in, here's a few 486S and Pentium is in the closet that we haven't used in at least 20 years, but you must replace them all. Not surprisingly, the project ran out of money and inventory with less than 75% of the departments and offices completed. Oh no, I'll believe it. The professors do too. One had built a desk out of unused towers. For some reason he liked coming across as tech savvy. I have to say, I always eye the computers my doctor is using in every appointment to try to guess how the office is doing. And occasionally help them fix their desktop resolution. Only once built a desk out of old desktops. And I think we all look computers and networks of places we frequent now. I look to see if they lock their computer if they step away while in a transaction to prevent their customers, e.g. myself, from doing anything. Bankers are good at that, doctors not so much. Absolutely. I always cringe when I see a list of patient names come up on screen. HIPAA, come on. Cripes. I have been in an environment like this. One of our previous/current clients, I don't recall which one is this, was in a couple where they basically had an almost 1 server user ratio. It was one of those user X says I need a server to handle my files, and so their old IT would spin up a brand new server and create a file share for them instead of using the primary file share server. Add a new share and lock it down with permissions. Oh god, I bet that was fun to untangle. Yeah. To my knowledge, that decided to eat the cost of the work to consolidate the servers rather than have to pay for all the new MS licensing for the servers, as a whole lot of them were spun up on bare metal. Did your boss or any of your coworkers mention what some of the squirreled away literally, it seems, servers were actually doing? I think most were just file storage. Since we had no good centralized backups, some of the savvier professors tried to help themselves and their peers as best as they were able. Also, our college was very unique. It was made up of a bunch of little departments that had nowhere else to go. So, whenever one got added, all their servers came too. And someone had to have told professors at one point that they had to buy print servers for God knows what reason. Because that one in particular kept coming up. They let us know after they bought their hardware, of course. One professor bought 1 printer and a server, because he thought he had 2. Can't blame them. Academics are often not given enough budget, let alone for frivolous things like IT. I should know. My dad was a department head back in the day. He had to fight for scraps just to get the kids a lab, and some of the stuff came out of his own pocket. On the plus side, he occasionally bought home junk the university had finally written off as broken, i.e. even the students had no luck trying to fix, so kid me would mess around with them. Once in a while I'd even learn something neat. Absolutely. It was one of the reasons we were so upset whenever they brought us yet another server that money could have been allocated elsewhere. But now it was too late. Luckily, word got to them eventually. It just took a while. I'm slowly cleaning up the cabling in the sites I'm responsible for. One was new around 1990, had a big fire that destroyed some of it, and then 3 major reorganizations of the main area. The patch panel is a bit of a mess, with 4 different types of panel because no cable monkey ever had the bright idea of why not get another panel like they used on the last rebuild. And they placed them wherever they felt like it. On a freestanding 19 rack. Yes, some are in front, others are in the back. And whenever that they rebuilt, they cut the cabling to the outlets they removed, but never removed it on the patch panel. Servers. I would expect a university of that size to have 2 sets of domain controllers, a pair for the administrative network, and a pair for the student network. Anyone with just one DC for anything is just waiting for a big crash. 1 or 2 print servers, a couple of file servers, 1 backup server, and possibly a couple of servers for running SCCM or similar tools, to PXE boot from, to run network monitoring and so on. Now, how many physical servers you need? That's a bit less. You're also going to have some specialty servers though. You're going to have the access control server. You're going to have the video surveillance recorder server, a server for controlling the robotics arm in the robotics lab if we're talking a university. A server for controlling and monitoring and logging the mass spectrometer again. A university. And so forth. And often you don't want to put that software on the same server as your corporate crown jewels because it is clunky, buggy, horrifyingly insecure, and consumes CPU cycles and memory and disk space like a bum drinks box wine. And furthermore runs only on a buggy insecure older OS version which differs for each and every one of the applications. Hell, a video recorder server monitoring 30 or 40 cameras can easily burn up a terabyte per day if there's a lot of motion on those cameras. Now multiply by the number of video recorder servers needed to monitor an entire campus. At my own employer we have 2 big file servers that have roughly 100 terabytes of disk space. A backup server to back up stuff that needs to go offsite. We have a system that syncs critical data to the backup drives on the backup server, and we rotate the backup drives on a regular basis. And a half dozen compute servers running our internal cloud, running roughly 150 virtual machines doing QA tests cycles for every single different combination of IoT device and Microsoft OS, as well as our build server VMs need multiple build servers. 1 for Linux, 1 for Windows, 1 for code signing that has special privileges, etc. And sample cloud deployments of our product used to do initial testing of our product before it gets pushed to AWS for final testing then production. And even with all of that we still have a separate access control server because we want to actually be able to get into the building if the rest of the network has somehow melted down. And a separate video surveillance server in a 2U12 disk SAS chassis because it records so bloody much data that it would impact the performance of the main file servers.